Ever wondered what goes on behind the scenes when the boss isn't watching? One CEO didn't wonder, he found out. By disguising himself as a janitor, he gained an unprecedented perspective and, in doing so, unearthed a shocking revelation about his own company that will make you question everything you think you know about your workplace. Fluorescent lights hummed over an empty corridor as a mop squeaked across the floor. The man pushing it moved too carefully, pausing before each stroke. His name tag read Dave, but under the cap and work gloves was David Chen, founder and CEO of Synapse Global, a tech empire known for innovation, pristine offices, and quarterly headlines about record profits. Tonight, he wasn't signing million-dollar contracts. He was cleaning coffee stains off the break room tiles. He'd planned this for weeks, a full disguise, a fabricated resume, even a fake employment agency that hired him. After years of hearing boardroom praise and investor applause, he'd grown uneasy. The numbers were perfect, yet the smiles around him seemed forced. Reports filtered through layers of management. Surveys painted a rosy picture. Still, something felt off, a hollowness he couldn't shake. So he decided to find the truth himself. David leaned on his mop as two employees whispered near the vending machine. "Another update delay," one muttered. "Carl says the new tool's still in testing, but it's been 6 months." "Testing my patience," the other replied. "He just doesn't want the execs to know his team's the problem." David's jaw tightened. Carl Meadows, head of operations, a man David had promoted personally. He forced a chuckle, pretending not to hear. The workers nodded politely and left. David returned to scrubbing, but their words echoed louder than the hum of the lights. That night, he logged everything in a cheap notebook, overheard remarks, expressions, silences. By midnight, his palms were blistered and his back ached. The irony wasn't lost on him. He'd built an AI division that automated half of Silicon Valley, yet here he was, learning how to empty trash bags. The next morning, Dave was assigned to floor 17, where the operations team worked. The air smelled of burnt coffee and tension. Monitors flickered with dashboards and exhausted engineers slumped in their chairs. A woman in her late 20s smiled as he passed. Her badge read Rosa Martinez, software analyst. "Hey, new guy," she said. "You're better off avoiding Carl's office before 10. That's when he's hunting for someone to blame." David laughed awkwardly. "Thanks for the warning. You'll see. Around here, if something breaks, he yells first and listens never." Rosa returned to her desk. David caught the tremor in her tone. Not gossip, but exhaustion. At 10:15, a door slammed open. Carl Meadows stormed out, tall, polished, and fuming. "Rosa, why is the integration report missing again?" She spun her chair. "I sent it last night." "Then why don't I see it in the system?" I uploaded it to the shared drive like always." "Excuses," Carl snapped. "You're slowing everyone down." David froze, mop in hand. He saw Rosa's screen, time-stamped email, 10:47 p.m. Proof. Carl either hadn't checked or didn't care. After Carl stalked off, Rosa buried her face in her hands. David wanted to step in to defend her, but he swallowed the urge. Stay invisible. He spent the next hour cleaning near her desk, quietly listening as co-workers vented. "Carl deleted half our tickets last week," one whispered. "Said we didn't need a backlog." "Yeah, and now upper management thinks we're lazy." Every word peeled back a layer of illusion David had built about Synapse Global's collaborative culture. By evening, Rosa noticed him still sweeping near her desk. "Long day, huh?" she asked softly. "Yeah," he said, "harder than it looks." She smiled faintly. "You get used to being invisible." The words hit him like a punch. Invisible. That's how his employees felt. He went home past midnight, dropping his disguise in the car seat. His reflection in the mirror looked foreign, sweaty, tired, humbled. He thought of the posters in the office lobby. Innovation through empathy. What a joke. Still, he returned the next day. And the next. Within a week, he had learned which departments skipped breaks, which managers hoarded credit, and who kept the company running while others took the glory. Rosa became an unintentional ally. She'd smile at him, offer leftover sandwiches, and talk while he wiped tables. "You know, Dave," she said one evening, "we used to love it here. 2 years ago, this place felt alive. Now, everyone's scared." Scared of what? Messing up. Speaking up. Carl reports anyone who disagrees. People disappear, transferred, laid off, whatever. We just keep quiet. David nodded slowly, heart sinking. That sounds rough. Rough doesn't cover it. Last quarter, someone anonymously flagged a system vulnerability. Carl told HR it was a false alarm. 2 weeks later, that person got terminated for performance issues. David stopped wiping. Do you know who it was? She hesitated, lowering her voice. Mark Henderson, security engineer. He tried to protect the company, and they made him vanish. Mark, the same name David had seen on the Innovation Award list last year. That night, David drove home, gripping the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. How did I miss all this? He'd trusted reports, metrics, and polished updates, numbers that hid the bruises underneath. By Friday, his notebook was filled with pages of notes, fake productivity data, morale issues, intimidation patterns. Each line was a betrayal of the company he thought he'd built. Still, he needed proof, undeniable evidence. Monday night, opportunity arrived. As he mopped near the operations conference room, he overheard Carl and 2 supervisors talking inside. Delete the error logs before the board review, Carl ordered. We'll re-upload the fixed set afterward? But that's falsifying data, one of them whispered. Carl leaned forward. You want bonuses this quarter? Do it, David's pulse pounded. He moved closer, pretending to push the mop bucket. Carl continued. If HQ sees system downtimes, they'll pull funding. We make it look clean, everyone's happy. The bucket clattered against the wall. Carl spun around. Who's there? David froze. Sorry, sir, just cleaning. Carl squinted. You knew? Yes, sir. Dave, night shift. Carl's glare lingered. Keep your mouth shut and eyes on the floor, Dave. Some of us have real work to do. Yes, sir. As Carl disappeared, David's heart raced. Delete logs, cover failures, manipulate data. This wasn't mismanagement. It was fraud. He had his proof, but revealing it meant blowing his cover. And he wasn't done yet. If you're still watching, hit that like button. It helps more people discover stories like this one. And trust me, the next part will leave you speechless. That night, David returned to his locker and pulled out his phone. He recorded a short note to himself. Tomorrow, I follow Carl. No turning back. The next night, the office lights burned past midnight. David arrived early, pretending to clean near the elevators but watching the glass doors of the operations wing. At 9:30, Carl strode in, jacket over his shoulder, phone to his ear. Relax, it's handled, he said, voice low. They'll never see those logs. The board will think the system's flawless. He swiped his keycard and disappeared inside. David waited 5 minutes, then pushed his cart forward. The hallway was empty. He pulled out his phone and discreetly recorded the monitor reflections from the glass wall. Lines of code scrolled rapidly. Deletion commands time-stamped minutes ago. Rosa's voice startled him. Dave? What are you doing here this late? He almost dropped the mop. Just finishing up. She looked over his shoulder, eyes narrowing. Wait, are they deleting logs? David froze. You can tell from here? Yeah, she whispered. I worked on that system. Those commands mean they're wiping reports. Before he could reply, a voice boomed from behind. Rosa! Dave! What are you two doing? Carl stood in the doorway, face red. Nothing, sir, David said quickly. Just cleaning up. Carl's eyes flicked between them. Sure. Rosa, you're staying late again? Didn't I tell you not to meddle in operations tasks outside your scope? She stiffened. I wasn't. Save it. HR will hear about this tomorrow. He turned to David. And you? Next time, don't lurk around places you don't belong. Understood? Yes, sir. Carl stormed off, slamming the door. Rosa exhaled shakily. He's going to make my life hell. David's mind raced. Maybe he won't. You don't know Carl. No, David said quietly, but I intend to. The next morning, he skipped the mop. He followed Carl. From a distance, he watched as Carl met a supplier representative in the parking lot. They exchanged a briefcase. David's pulse spiked. This wasn't just data manipulation. This was deeper. He pulled out his phone to record, but the distance was too great. A gust of wind slammed a nearby dumpster lid, and Carl turned sharply. Their eyes met. Recognition flickered. Carl squinted, walking closer. Dave, right? You following me now? David forced a laugh. Just taking trash out. Carl's tone dropped. You're not fooling me. Who sent you, HR? The board? I don't know what you mean. Carl stepped forward, grabbing David's arm. Listen carefully, janitor. You see nothing, you say nothing. David yanked free. Let go. Carl stared a moment longer, then smirked. Good, let's keep it that way. David's heart hammered as Carl drove off. He'd crossed a line now, both of them had. That night, he sat in his car outside the office, hands trembling. Every instinct screamed to reveal his identity, to end this farce. But he needed undeniable evidence, not just whispers. He opened his phone and replayed his voice note. Tomorrow I follow Carl. No turning back. He deleted it. There was no turning back. The next day, Rosa didn't show up. Her desk was empty, her nameplate gone. David asked another employee quietly, "Where's Rosa?" "She got called into HR this morning," they said. Something about policy violations. She looked terrified. He felt a chill. Carl was cleaning house. That evening, while scrubbing the break room, David overheard two IT staffers whispering. "Rosa's gone?" one asked. "Yeah." Carl told HR she accessed restricted files, total setup. She was one of the few who still spoke up. David clenched his fists. That was it, the breaking point. He slipped into the empty server room later that night, using a generic janitor's key. The hum of machines filled the silence. On a corner monitor, a backup directory blinked. System logs, archive, confidential. He plugged in a small flash drive. Lines of data scrolled. Deleted files, altered timestamps, hidden directories labeled Report Cleanup and Incident Henderson. His heart sank. Mark Henderson. Rosa was right. Suddenly a voice cut through the hum. Well, what do we have here?" Carl stood in the doorway, arms folded, a smirk spreading across his face. David froze, caught between fight and flight. "I was told to clean." "Cut the act," Carl said, stepping closer. "You've been snooping since day one. What's your game, spy? Reporter? Whistleblower?" David swallowed hard. "You're making a mistake." "No," Carl sneered. "You made the mistake of thinking I wouldn't notice a janitor who asks too many questions." He reached out, grabbing David's collar. "Who are you, really?" David stared him dead in the eye. "Let go!" Carl hesitated, and David shoved him backward, breaking free. He bolted out the door, sprinting down the corridor. Carl's shouts echoed behind him. He burst into the stairwell, lungs burning. His flash drive was still clutched in his hand. Down 3 flights, he ducked into the maintenance room and locked the door. His heart pounded as he plugged the flash drive into his phone, sending the files to a secure personal email. Evidence secured. A loud bang on the door jolted him. Carl's voice bellowed, "You think you can run?" "Security's on the way," David exhaled shakily. "Guess it's time to end this." He unlocked the door slowly. Carl was waiting, red-faced and panting. "I should have known," Carl hissed. "Who are you working for?" David straightened. "For the people you've been destroying," Carl frowned. "What?" David took off his cap, tossing it aside. "For myself." Recognition dawned. Carl's jaw dropped. "No, it can't be." David's tone hardened. "It is." Carl stepped back. "You're David Chen," he said quietly. "You're CEO." The hallway went silent. The only sound was the hum of fluorescent lights. Carl's face drained of color. Why, how?" "Undercover. For 3 weeks I've seen the truth you've buried. The intimidation, the lies, the data tampering. I built this company to empower people, and you turned it into your playground," Carl stammered. "You don't understand, Save it, HR will." Carl lunged forward, but David sidestepped him, pressing a button on his phone. "Already recorded, already backed up." Carl froze. David stared at him for a long moment, fury and heartbreak swirling behind his calm exterior. "You'll answer for every person you silenced, every lie you sold me." Security arrived moments later, alerted by the commotion. Carl tried to protest, but David's word was final. As they led him away, Carl shouted, "You'll regret this! You'll lose everyone!" David watched silently. Maybe he already had. The next morning, Synapse Global woke up to chaos. An emergency email from the CEO's office summoned every department head to an all-hands meeting. Whispers filled the halls. Why was the janitor escorted by security? Why is David Chen here in person? What happened last night? When David stepped onto the stage, murmurs rippled through the crowd. Gone was the polished executive. He stood in the same janitor's uniform, sleeves rolled up, tired but resolute. "You all deserve to know the truth," he began. "Over the past month, I went undercover in my own company. Not because I didn't trust you, but because I stopped understanding you. And what I found broke me." Gasps filled the room. Cameras flashed. Carl Meadows and several others falsified reports, bullied employees, and punished honesty. Rosa Martinez, Mark Henderson. If you're watching, I owe you an apology. You tried to protect Synapse when I failed to see the cracks forming. His voice wavered, but he continued. That ends now. David stood at the top floor of Synapse Global a week later, staring through the glass that had once symbolized success. The skyline glittered, but it didn't feel the same anymore. The walls that used to echo with pride now carried the weight of truth. He called an emergency leadership meeting. The same middle managers who used to intimidate janitors and junior staff now sat in nervous silence. David didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "I went undercover," he said simply, his tone calm, but the words hit like thunder. "I saw how this company really runs. I heard how you speak to people, how you ignore the ones who keep this place standing." One manager shifted uncomfortably. Another tried to laugh it off. "Sir, you mean you—" "Yes," David interrupted. "I was the janitor." A ripple of shock crossed the room. The HR head dropped her pen. The CFO's jaw hung open. "I scrubbed floors next to people who are paid less than what we spend on coffee," David continued. "I watched our team work overtime without thanks. I watched managers—" He fixed his eyes on one of them. "Take credit for others' ideas and cut corners to meet deadlines." The silence was suffocating. "And the worst part," David said, voice breaking slightly, "is that I built this culture without realizing it. I thought innovation was enough. But innovation without empathy is just ego." No one dared speak. He dismissed most of them, keeping only HR and his COO. The next weeks were chaos. Tough conversations, investigations, sudden resignations. But David didn't stop. He created an anonymous employee feedback line, doubled the cleaning staff's wages, and launched a new ground-level initiative where executives spent one day a month working among regular employees. The news leaked, of course. Within days, the story hit the media. CEO goes undercover as janitor, discovers shocking truth about his company. Comment sections exploded. Some called it a PR stunt. Others said he was brave. David didn't care. What mattered were the quiet thank yous from the people who once avoided his gaze in the hall. 3 months later, Synapse Global's culture had transformed. The office buzzed with energy again. Not the forced kind, but genuine connection. People spoke up, processes improved. And for the first time, David walked the floor without the awkward stiffness of hierarchy. He saw Marta, the same cleaner who once whispered encouragement to Dave. She smiled. "Morning, Mr. Chen." David grinned. "Call me Dave." She laughed. "You're still the same, huh?" He nodded, eyes glistening. "Trying to be." Later that day, he stood before the company at a town hall meeting. Cameras streamed live, employees from every branch tuned in. "I went looking for the truth," he said, pausing to let the room settle. "And what I found wasn't failure, it was heart. It was the people we forget to listen to. The truth wasn't hidden, it was just unheard." The applause came slowly, then built into a roar. As he stepped off stage, David thought about the mop closet where it all began. Sometimes leadership meant walking into the dirt to see the shine that everyone else missed. He looked straight into the camera before the stream ended. "If you've ever felt unseen where you work," he said softly, "know this. Someone out there should be listening. And if you're the one in charge, start listening before it's too late." He smiled faintly. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Tell me, what would you do if you discovered the truth behind your workplace?